Hey there, welcome to another edition of Truth and Rhythm, brought to you by funkinstuff.net. This is the interview show that gets deep in the pocket with contemporary music's foremost masters of the groove. I'm your host, Scott Dr. Goldfine, musicologist and author of Everything is on the One, the first guide of funk. If you don't have your copy, get on over to Amazon and pick one up. You'll be so glad you did. It's just full of funky richness. Tasty stuff. Whether you're watching on our YouTube broadcast or on funkinstuff.net or through Vimeo, or listening to the audio podcast version on iTunes or from other leading providers, as always, I thank you very much for your continued interest and support. Speaking of which, if you don't already, make sure to subscribe. Subscribe to the Funkin' Stuff channel on YouTube. That's where Truth and Rhythm lives and breathes and thrives. Join the masses that are subscribing. And if you've already done so, tell a friend, tell family. We need that support. Thank you. So appreciated. This episode features one of the most prominent, successful, and tasty jazz, soul, funk saxophonists to arrive on the scene since the mid-1970s. I'm speaking of Ronnie Laws. Coming from a musical family that includes jazz flautist Hubert Laws and singers Eloise and Deborah Laws, and growing up in Houston around the block from the Crusaders, Ronnie got his professional start with Earth, Wind & Fire back in 1972. Leaving to pursue a solo career, he performed with Hugh Masekela and did session work until Donald Byrd helped him land a recording deal with Blue Note Records that resulted in his stellar debut album, 1975's Pressure Sensitive. That record took off on the strength of the funky instrumental hit, Always There. Through the years, he would release more than 20 of his own albums, with 7 of them cracking Billboard's top 200. Some of his other hits included Friends and Strangers, Saturday Evening, Something Special, Every Generation, Stay Awake, In the Groove, and City Girl. He also appeared on dozens of other artists' works, including his siblings, Wayne Henderson, Patrice Rushen, Miki Howard, Ramsey Lewis, Deniece Williams, Jeff Lorber, Sister Sledge, Larry Dunn, and Maurice White. In this interview, recorded nearly a year after technical issues preempted Laws' initial Truth and Rhythm appearance, the sax master talks about his amazing musical family and upbringing, also the thrill of playing with heroes like B.B. King and Quincy Jones. He tells why he left Earth, Wind & Fire, how his hit albums and tracks were created, why he feels shunned by the smooth jazz movement, how his son is following in his woodwind footsteps, a recent Lifetime Achievement honor, and the excitement of imminent new music and ongoing live performances. It's time to learn the laws of soulful and funky jazz according to one of its principal architects, Mr. Ronnie Laws. Hey, I cannot be more pleased to welcome to the Truth and Rhythm Studios renowned jazz and R&B saxophone and flute player and singer-composer Ronnie Laws. The brother of flautist Hubert Laws and singers Eloise and Deborah Laws, since his 1975 debut, Ronnie has released more than 20 albums, 7 of which have charted among Billboard magazine's top 200. No small feat for a jazz artist. Ronnie, so glad to have you. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you very much. Looking forward to doing this.
Excellent. So you're coming to us from the Los Angeles area, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. I've been in Los Angeles for a little over about 48 years now.
Wow.
Originally from Texas, from Houston, born and raised there, and moved out to LA in 1970.
So you're almost a native at this point. Yeah. So it's a thrill to have you on. I think I mentioned to you before, but you know, I'm a saxophone player myself, alto, and you know, when I was coming up in school, right around when you started with Pressure Sensitive, I was in middle school, and you were my favorite. You know,
Wow, thank you.
I graduated from like Boots Randolph to Ronnie Laws.
Yeah, well, that's an honor. I really thank you for that. You sharing that experience.
Yeah, I would say, yourself, Grover Washington, and Maceo. You were my guys.
Good company.
Yeah. So, Ronnie, you're from Texas. Could you share with us a little bit of how you first, got into playing the saxophone and what it was like being in that musical family?
Yeah, well, I started when I was about 11, and my brother-in-law, who had just gotten out of the military service, and who's, he was a wannabe saxophone player, and so I would frequently, visit him and, and sort of follow him around as he was, walking through the, house playing records and trying to play the horn, And I observed him for a while, and checked out the fingerings and what he was doing, and one day he decided to take a little break, and we were listening to, I think, to David Fathead Newman, Hard Times, and he took a little break, and I when he did that, I went and picked up the horn, and I actually was able to construct a scale, the C scale, and it blew him away because he didn't have any idea I was following him that closely, but then when I heard David Fathead Newman play Willow Weep for me, I mean that did it for me, and I just started just basically learn by ear and I went and purchased a saxophone book and learned all the fingerings and just sort of self-taught myself, and I listened to a lot of music, a lot of records, good players, and then got to the point where I developed to the point where I could actually perform with other people, and the first experience I had was with Kenny Rogers, because he was doing the club circuit in Houston, and my sister was a background singer, Eloise, and she was bragging about her little brother that played saxophone. And so Kenny said, "Well, bring him up, bring him by. Let's check him out." Sure enough, I was able to impress him to the point where he had me to perform with him, and that's where it started for me. And then
about how old were you when you got on stage with Kenny?
I was about 12. I was 12. Yeah.
Wow.
12 years old. Yeah.
Were you nervous or were you precocious?
Maybe a little nervous, but I felt pretty comfortable actually. I mean, I was always in that musical environment with with guys in my neighborhood like the Crusaders, Wayne Henderson, Joe Sample, Stick Hooper, and Wilton Felder. Those were like the guys I would like, go and hang out when they were rehearsing. I mean, they would rehearse at Wayne's house. Wayne Henderson lived right behind us. And so the elementary school I attended was right in front of their house. And when school was adjourned out, I would rush over to their place and wait for them, and they would come in and, they were in high school at that time. And when they would come over, I would just sit there and just sit in the corner and absorb everything they were doing, So I had those kind of, mentors, and aside from my brother, Hubert, and, my mom was the church choir, local church choir director. So it was always music in the home, especially on weekends, because they would have, the choir would rehearse in our home, So all of those things culminated into really, inspire me to, to move forward, and pursuing, music.
Wow, growing up right with the Crusaders, that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that was my homeboys. Yeah.
Gosh. That's something. Why specifically the tenor sax and the flute? I mean, as I said, I played alto. So what attracted you to that instrument?
I started out on alto,
okay.
And I just sort of moved up to tenor in college, because in high school it was all alto, and so when I went, I had several full music scholarships, and I decided to attend university in East Texas, Nacogdoches, Stephen F. Austin. And, but I had scholarships to Berkeley, School of Music in Boston, and North Texas State, which is an incredible program in Texas. And but I wanted to stay a little closer to Houston. And then I eventually went from Stephen F. in my junior year to Texas Southern University. But it was at that point that I, decided to pick up the tenor and soprano, and I did a lot of work in the clubs and did the whole club circuit. And I, decided that I wanted to just sort of, move on to, more versatility, as far as playing the saxophones.
So you said you were self-taught, but obviously you had to studied going through the college route.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, in junior high and in high school, that's where I got my formal training, and more so in high school. This was during the period of integration, in the mid '60s, and there were two iconic high schools that were really for as far as the black high schools, it was Phyllis Wheatley and Cashmere Garden. And those are the ones that I was, wanted to attend. But at that time, they had forced busing, so we had to go to the schools that was within our district. And the high school that I had to go to was Robert E. Lee High School. And it was like 10 black students out of 2,500 white students. And but unbeknownst to me, I didn't realize that at that time the music band director was one of the best in the state. His name was Edward Trongoni, and so first day in attendance there, I immediately went to the music department and let it be known that I wanted to audition for the band, and I did do that. And Trongoni, very insightful man. I mean, he could recognize talent immediately. And so he happened to come in the following day and play. The thing that impressed him was that, well, first of all, he put music in front of me and I couldn't read. I mean, I wasn't really efficiently good at reading. But he said, look, just play something, play anything. I played tape 5, the solo, Paul Desmond's solo to the letter, verbatim. And once I finished that, he was just blown away. He said, look, you meet me at school before school at 7 in the morning, and I'll teach you how to read. And I did that. And the next semester I was, I qualified for the music program there.
Wow. So you really came to reading later on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Who were some of your early sax, idols, or who did you emulate on the instrument?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, David Fathead Newman,
and
eventually, Cannonball Adderley and Wilton Felder. He really had an impact on me. Being from Texas, and he had that big Texas tenor sound. And then eventually, I was introduced to John Coltrane music, and that really turned me around as far as how I approached the horn, especially soprano.
So was your early interest in doing more traditional jazz or doing more contemporary jazz, or what direction were you heading?
I just sort of let it take its course, because I was impacted by, just a whole musical environment, with the gospel thing with my mother. And my mom was a connoisseur of music. I mean, she introduced us to all different genres, like from Ella Fitzgerald to Ray Charles, B.B. King. I mean, that whole gamut of, those are, the people that, the artists that she insisted that we, know about. And so that was like every day. We wake up in the morning with the blues radio, Muddy Waters, B.B. King, those kind of artists. And that was like a daily thing, getting up, probably going to school. So I have that mixture. And then, of course, going through the 60s, the Motown the sound was huge, And so I had that filtering in, and then the jazz thing came through my brother, Hubert. And so it was a good mixture. It was a good mixture. And when it was the opportunity came for me to sort of expand my my musical horizons, I decided to just incorporate all those elements into what I do musically. And so when I joined Earth, Wind and Fire in '71, the one thing I appreciated about that group was Maurice was very very open to to doing stuff that was innovative, and he allowed me to do to expand. And when I performed with him and with the group, I was one of the original members of Earth, Wind and Fire, and so that's where it began.
So did you connect with him in Chicago, and how did that happen?
It happened here in LA.
Oh.
Yeah, I was actually performing with an associate of Maurice White. His name was Doug Kahn. And I was actually performing with Doug Kahn, and Doug had made it, he announced to me that Maurice White was looking for a sax player, to try to put their group together. And I just followed through on that, and went auditioned and thinking I was going to be a part of a horn section. After Maurice listened to, heard me or listened to me, he said, "Look, we're just going to go with one horn," which was that was unique because most R&B groups at that time, they all had horn sections. But that's what made Maurice so unique, and innovative. Genius, really a genius.
What were those recording sessions like?
It was, that was one of the, that was my introduction into watching how, production is done in the studio, and Maurice was, he had perfected that. How they would lay the rhythm section thing down first, and then it would come do overdubs, and have everyone to participate in that way. And so I sort of got my my studio legs, working with him in the studio.
Did he kind of let you do your own thing, or did he tell you what he wanted?
He let me do my own thing, and that was much appreciated. He just basically understood, what my contribution would be, and he took advantage of that, and he allowed me to do that.
And you did just the one record with them, or was it two?
I did Power, the Last Days and Times, and then thereafter, Maurice would have me come in and basically do like little solo spots with some of their later albums.
Why did you not stay a full group member?
It just wasn't my thing.
Yeah,
I've always had aspiration to be a solo artist, and Maurice knew that. It was just a matter of time, and it's something that's innate. You're either a side man, or you have leading qualities as a leader. And so when it came to time to actually sign with the group, I knew at that point it was time for me to make a major decision as to whether I was going to pursue a solo career or not. And it wasn't an easy decision because I knew that their success was right there. I knew it was in front of them.
And of course, you struck up, I guess, a lifetime friendship with Larry Dunn as part of
Absolutely.
That, right?
Yeah, that's my little brother.
So you took that gutsy move and kept going, trying to pursue your own solo dream. What were the steps that eventually led to you to getting a solo deal?
Well, when I left Earth, Wind and Fire, I had the opportunity to perform, be a part of to play with an artist that I've always admired. When I was in college, he had a big hit called "Grazing in the Grass," and it was Hugh Masekela. And when I left Earth, Wind and Fire, I did a little more freelancing, and then I was approached by Wayne Henderson, who used to actually play drums for Hugh Masekela, and he let it be known to me that Hugh Masekela was looking for a sax player. And so I went in audition, and then I got the gig, and I played with Hugh for about a year. And the funny thing that happened was, over the period of time of performing with him, he recognized that you know, the audience response to me when we were on stage together. So one day he decided, he called me and he said, you know, Ronnie, I think it's time for you to do. Actually impressed, you know, saying how he said it. You know, Ronnie, it's time for you to do your own thing, man. You know, and so that really spurred me on. I mean, it, you know, gave me the you know, the encouragement to you know, go and really pursue the solo career.
What did you learn or pick up from your experience with him?
He's a great his stage performance. I mean, his presence on stage. I mean, he's just a great performer. You know, he knew how to communicate with the audience. Aside from, you know, just playing the, you know, the horn, it was more than that. You know, so he was just an all-around great performer.
Did you feel more of an affinity for studio or stage at that point?
Well, I think more stage, more stage. Yeah, I had to really get accustomed after doing the first album. You know, it was pretty challenging because, you know, I mean, that's where you perfect everything in the studio. So, at the time of just performing live, that was a little more. I felt a little more at home with that. You know?
So you got your deal with Blue Note. How did that become reality?
Well, when I left Musicologist, you know, I started putting demos together and trying to shop a deal. You know, and ultimately, I mean, what happened was I went to Blue Note Records and Donald Byrd was there. You know, he was, you know, basically doing this thing with the Blackbirds. And he, you know, I ran into him and I played my demo, you know, with George Butler, who was there at the same time that, you know, directed the Blue Note label. And I played this one song, Soprano. And after they finished listening, Donald said, man, I never heard a soprano player sound like that, you know? And so he said, look, you know, I like to get involved, you know? So he actually volunteered to want to actually produce me on the Blue Note label. But his schedule was such that he just didn't have the time. I mean, he would have me come to his house up in the North Hollywood Hills and just hang around and wait for him when he's in and out of the studio. But at certain point, I just realized that it wasn't going to happen with him. Not that he had good intentions, but so eventually I just hooked up with my homeboy Wayne Henderson, and Wayne went and reintroduced the demo to George Butler. And Eddie Levine, who was the assistant to George Butler, really was the guy that instrumental in me getting that deal. And the rest is history.
About how long did it take you to cut it, and how did you decide what you were going to have on it?
Well, I was pretty prepared. I mean, you know, with the demo, the band I put together, you know, Roland Batista and Donnie Beck, and it was some great players, and we had rehearsed very, you know, extensively. And so when it came time to actually go in the studio and record, we were more than prepared, you know, and made Wayne Henderson's job very easy, you know. And, you know, we had people like Joe Sample playing, that's Joe Sample on Always There. Mm. And Wilton Felder's on bass. And so I was really privileged to have, you know, the right people, the right elements, you know, to come together and make that a successful project.
Yeah, you had some great heavy hitters right from the get-go.
Yeah, water. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Did you feel like Always There was going to be a hit, you know, right from the beginning? And how many takes did it take for that one that eventually got out?
2.
Wow.
2 takes. Yeah, 2 takes. And as far as the duration of doing the entire project, I think it was no more than maybe a good month. It was, yeah, we were like in the studio, but we actually cut the tracks in 2 weeks, and then the other 2 weeks we did the overdubs, and some of that stuff was done live. Always There was that was done live. There was no overdub. That actually that was the first or second run, the solo.
That had some great percussion on it too.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And radio jumped on it right away, pretty much, right?
Immediately, yeah. It was something very special, and it was a little different, you know, because I mean it had, you know, some R&B elements and you know, as well as jazz, and it sort of introduced a whole new genre of instrumental music, you know.
I mean, that was right at the peak of soul jazz and funk jazz, and was such a great era for that, and you were right in the thick of it. So did you tour extensively just on that first record?
I did. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Who are some of the cats that you went out with?
Well, as I said, Roland Batista, Donnie Beck, Bobby Lyle, Steve Gutierrez was on drums. That was the band.
Who are some of the people that you went out with on the bill, though? Who'd you share a bill with?
Oh man, it was a wide range. Going from, in fact, my first debut opening up was for 4 nights at the Coconut Grove for B.B. King, and that was like a dream come true. And then, but I played with so many, man, it'd take me all day to go through the list of artists that I was billed with, you know, from Grover Washington to Simpson, what's their name? Ashford and Simpson, Shaka Khan. It was just it was a quite a, you know, it was a, you know, I mean, I wasn't, you know, with Eddie Harris. I mean, there was so many different artists, you know, that I was privileged to be on the same stage with.
Now, I want to say somewhere around that time, I think I saw you at the Roxy. Did you play the Roxy at some point?
Yeah, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
A couple of times, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I love that venue. Great venue.
Yeah, it was.
So you came back in, you didn't wait too long, and you did Fever, and you kept things hot with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Did anything change, or you pretty much kept the formula and the same personnel?
Yeah, pretty much. And then Friends and Strangers was a turning point, because it really crossed over, you know, into a whole broader spectrum of radio. You know, and that was actually my first gold album, was Friends and Strangers. Yeah, some water.
Was it a conscious decision, you know, that you were going to go in that direction? I mean,
yeah, pretty much, yeah. Mm-hmm. Then that's where Larry Dunn came and put his spirit on the project. You know, doing this synthesizer input. You know, and his contribution really made the elevated the project, actually. You know.
So that one had, of course, the title cut was a huge hit on radio. Wasn't there another track on it too that got radio play, another hit?
On Friends and Strangers?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh yeah, Just Love, which was, you know, was a little duet we did live. Larry and I did. I don't know how much airplay it got, but that was a very special cut. Excuse me.
So at this point, you're basically headlining some shows, I'm guessing too, right?
A lot of shows, yeah.
Yeah, and doing some TV.
A lot of TV. Did Soul Train, Solid Gold. I mean, there was this guy named Wolfman Jack.
Midnight Special.
I did that. Yeah, Midnight Special. And yeah, so you know, it was a wide open field for me. Yeah.
So, were you being asked to do guest spots on other people's projects as well?
Yeah, quite a few. Yeah, Maurice, you know, his first solo project, he had me to come and be a guest, you know, and perform. And Sister Sledge, I mean, it's Howard Hewitt. It's a lot of people, a lot of artists. It's sort of hard to pin anyone. I mean, I know exclude some. Craig T. Cooper. Yeah, yeah.
And then you kept the hits coming with Very Special.
Yeah.
Eventually came with your
Yeah,
sister, Deborah singing on there.
That's correct. I produced that album. And it was a major hit for her. Yeah.
Did you produce a whole record for her? Just
I produced a whole record. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Now, what happened with her? She didn't do that many projects.
Well, it's one of those age-old stories. Some people wanted to, get involved in her career, namely her husband at that time, and just the interacting between him and the label, and it just sort of discouraged the label from going forward, with another project, even though they did commit to another project. But it just, that's certain people shouldn't be in the business, And so that's what, that's sort of, in a nutshell, that's what happened. But, I'm going to, I've been working with Deborah, and, we're not giving up on her doing, another project. So just stay tuned.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, she didn't have a super powerful voice, but it was a really nice voice.
No, she has a powerful voice.
Does she?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, we got to hear that.
Yeah, you should hear her latest efforts. I mean, there's a thing she did with Mayungo Jackson, and she did one of the cuts of Freddie Hubbard. I forgot the name of the track, but man, she did a rendition of one of his songs, and she did his solo verbatim, and you wouldn't even know that that's her. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah, because she's very powerful. Before I'm not just saying this because I'm a brother, but before the Whitney Houstons and those people surfaced, Deborah was projected to be it, with the label at that time, and they were putting everything they could, promotional wise, to make that happen. But as I say, circumstances sort of things got in the way, and the rest is history.
Well, I know. I mean, on that track, Very Special, I love the quality of her voice. It was terrific. Yeah.
Well, she's a powerful singer, very powerful.
The other track I was trying to think of, Ronnie, was Saturday Evening.
Mm-hmm.
That was also another hit on that record.
Yeah, that's true. Right, on Friends and Strangers. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think of that, but you're right. Yeah, that was and that was definitely one of the tunes that stood out as well.
Yep.